Mr. Genius, 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to direct my questions to Mr. Ferguson and Mr. Bloomer. I have the pleasure of representing the riding of Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan, which is really Canada's hub for energy-related manufacturing. We have the Industrial Heartland, and I'm very proud of our region and the jobs that are created there, but also across the country. So I did want to pick up on this issue of Accelerated Capital Cost Allowance because I was a bit concerned by some of the comments made by the Liberal member, and I think this is a good opportunity for us to talk further about just what Accelerated Capital Cost Allowance is and how important it is for creating jobs in my region and across the country. Now, so many of the products we use on a regular basis come from energy development. Even the election signs that we used are a derivative of a petroleum product that's in plastic. Even Liberal and NDP election signs come from the energy sector in some sense. And Accelerated Capital Cost Allowance, it's not a cost to government. In fact, it's an economic incentive that creates opportunities for the government to generate revenue because it allows companies who make major investments in energy-related manufacturing to write off the cost of that capital earlier on. So it creates jobs, but it also creates an opportunity for revenue. And it just seems to me that given the situation right now in Alberta with relatively higher unemployment than we've seen in the past, now is a very good time to create incentives for these kinds of projects. Now is a very good time for more activity in the downstream sector. So I know we have you gentlemen here representing the upstream sector and the transportation part of our energy resource sector. But I wonder if you could talk a little bit more about the importance of Accelerated Capital Cost Allowance and maybe the kinds of things that we could include in the budget that create incentives for the downstream sector for energy-related manufacturing.
Sure. Maybe I'll start quickly. The capital cost treatment or the depreciation schedule is a means for an operator or a business to manage risk in a project. So if they can, they're more prepared to take a riskier project if they can, write off that risk sooner so that they gain more confidence in a shorter time window. Large, significant capital projects, given the time that's required to actually deploy them and see some kind of return, inherently have a lot of risk through construction and the upcycle of getting started. So the opportunity for it's not a loss on government revenue. It's a timing process for government revenue through the depreciation schedule that you would front-end load. But it's more an opportunity for those riskier projects that we think are important for Canada, for the economy, and moving our product, whether it's an LNG plant or whether it's a refinery, an upgrader, or any significant resource development. Having the ability to write off those riskier projects sooner is a way of freeing up capital that can be deployed elsewhere. So, Chris.
Yeah, I would agree with Alex's. I would agree with Alex's comments. I think on the large pipeline side, there is a rate-based component to it, but it does figure into the economics and it does figure into the de-risking of capital investments.
Thank you very much. I think you make the point very well that this isn't a cost to government. It's like a pipeline. These things are cost-free economic stimuluses. They create economic activity through an economic incentive, but they don't cost the government, at least not in the long term. And just another point that I want to ask you to comment on. I'm from Alberta. We hear so much about the importance of the energy sector. It's something that through friends and people in my constituency I'm hearing about every day. But I wonder if you could talk specifically about the benefits for jobs and opportunity in other parts of the country. What are the ways in which jobs are created through energy development and through pipelines in Ontario and Quebec, in the Maritimes, in BC, in all regions of the country?
Well, I will say, as a good example to frame that, just from an oil sands perspective, our members that operate in the oil sands sector, they track the number of businesses that they purchase products from elsewhere in Canada. And I did have some numbers here. For example, in Ontario, there is approximately 1,100 to 1,200 suppliers that are supported by oil sands development. I think in Quebec the number is approximately 800 different companies that supply products to the oil sands. So it's just from a supply perspective, there is a lot of movement of economic benefits across the country that you may not know. I'll give you a very specific one. Around the Greater Toronto area, there are approximately 40 to 50 pallet manufacturers. And these people provide, a good opportunity for jobs, especially for new Canadians in that kind of sector. Well, almost every product, other than huge equipment, moves on a pallet. So when we buy a product from a supplier in Ontario, it has to be loaded onto a pallet that needs to be manufactured in Ontario and moved to Alberta. And so it's, we do have the numbers. I'd be happy to share them more specifically if anybody's interested, but we do have a pretty wide breadth in the economy.
We're well over time, Mr. Genius. Mr. Bloomer, have anything you wanted to add to what Alex had to say?
Yes, please. Just a short comment. I think that the nature of pipeline infrastructure is those benefits are translated right across Canada, and the scale of investments we're talking about are significant and are spread across Canada. And I will say that there's probably on maintenance alone in the existing system, there's probably $3 billion a year that's spread across Canada also. So those benefits are transnational and they're long term.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very